Limiting beliefs. What are they and what are they not? Stick around. We are going to talk to Danielle Southwick, a grief recovery specialist, and she's actually been on this podcast before. Speaking of the podcast, we are the Communicate Great podcast, and I'm your host, Traci Poe, founder of Communicate Great. Danielle, hi.
Hi,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
for coming on.
having me. Yeah.
So, Danielle, again, she has been on the podcast before, and we actually have several things going on. Another thing that we do is we are involved in a community called the Know Thyself, a Glow and Grow community. And that is all about really taking a look at who you are and figuring out ways that you can grow, areas you're strong in, just really that personal growth. So, Danielle actually is the host of the Know and Tell, a private podcast just for the Know Thyself community. So, Danielle, hello.
So good to be back with you and everybody. I love it. This is such a fun time. So we talk about limiting beliefs and you're like, but how does it connect? And I'm like, well, it's reconciliation.
Right,
It's really the tie back, what are
right,
you not reconciled to? So
right.
I know we're going to dive into it, like what is a
Yes.
limiting belief and everything, but I'm excited about this conversation because everyone has some limiting beliefs. And the thing is, you don't have to stay stuck. You can actually break those limiting beliefs and help reframe and change how you're behaving, how it's impacting your family life, your friends, yourself. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. And because we're the Communicate Great podcast, we talk about communication. And you and I have had this conversation before. It's really self-talk,
Mhm.
right? Those lies that we tell ourselves, that is
Mhm.
self-talk. And if you've been listening, you're going to know I call it intrapersonal communication. That
Mhm.
is that self-talk. So go ahead and I'm just going to leave it in your hands.
Oh, you're so kind. You're so kind. Okay, well, I'm going to put that to the side and see. We're good? Okay. So, well, we talk about what is a limiting belief. It's good to have some terminology around it. And a limiting belief really is a thought or belief that restricts your potential, right? And so, if you think about all the things that you have going on, the things that you want to achieve personally, I know for me, there's some gym things that I want to achieve. There's some personal relational things that I want to achieve, some relationships that I want to strengthen, things like that. You look at those and you say, what is limiting me? What is standing in my way? And what can I own? Right? Because we can't own things for everybody else, but we can own things for us, right? What are the things that we can own? And so, a thought or belief, right? We're really looking for, when you look at the word belief, BELIEF, look for the lie, look for the LIE.
Right.
So, and often this is coming from past experiences, right? Or things that we're being taught in society, or self doubt, like internalizing things, right? So limiting beliefs can come from multiple different areas. And it's a habit that we continue to do, but it's not serving us any longer, right? And so we look for the lie. And why does this matter? Why does like pausing and reflecting? I actually heard this week that stillness is required for reflection. If you think about like a pond or a lake,
Right. Yeah.
stillness is required to reflect. And so, taking some time to be still with it and really dig internally and say, what isn't there? Be curious about, why do I act the way that I do in these situations? What were those triggers that then had me act in that way? And so sometimes we look at behavior as like the end goal, and we say, oh, well, this thing happened and I felt this way. And then that reinforced a belief. And then that's because of that reinforcement of the belief, this is how I act, right? This is how I behave. This is how I respond. And other times we can look at it from the other direction. We can say, oh, I've been noticing that I've been acting or responding or reacting. Where is that coming from? What
Right.
belief is there that is reinforcing that that's a good way to do those things or a negative way to do those things? And then asking those questions of like, well, what is what is reinforced there of an event or a feeling that I have experienced that says that that's how I should respond. And then going back all the way to the other end of like, well, what does this remind me of? Right. So there's a couple different ways that you can be still with it, be curious about it. Um, but limiting beliefs really shape the way that we view ourselves and the world around us. Right. Sometimes they prevent us from embracing opportunities, right? Or making choices that align with our true potential. Um, you good? Good with that?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I just want to interject here
Yeah.
that it's the point that in my mind, what I need to make for myself is those lies that I'm telling myself. What
Mm,
you just said is they limit us from potential,
right.
right? So we get stuck, like you mentioned. If let's just say this is not one I tell myself. You know what? I'm going to go with one I used to tell myself.
Sure.
I used to tell myself all the time, I'm ugly, I'm ugly, I'm ugly, I'm ugly, I'm ugly.
Mm,
And that stems back from some things that happened in my past.
mhm.
And because I looked at myself in the mirror and I would say, oh, you're ugly, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
limited that self-talk, limited the potential. When I started Communicate Great, for example, several years ago, I was still dealing with some of that even at that point. And so when you're one man team, right, and you're trying to do it all by yourself, you have to do your own marketing.
Yeah.
And I did not want to be on camera because why? I'm ugly, right?
Right. Right.
And so that really limited what I was doing to market my own
Mhm.
company. And
Mhm.
it's funny because I have someone helping me and I've never had this conversation with her. And in the past, she asked for me to do some videos and she said, "You're beautiful. It's okay." And just kept going into her comments.
Mm.
And I thought, how did
How
that
did
hit?
you do that? Right.
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 Because this is the first time I've ever had this conversation with somebody of saying I used to tell myself over like this
Mm.
has never left my mouth.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's a story that we tell ourselves over and over again. If you repeat a story long enough, you start to believe it, right? Whether
Right.
that's something that you adapted early on for yourself or somebody else told it about you, whether it was true or not, right? Or whether something that like you started to receive this comparison message on socials or whatever it is, wherever you got that storyline, it's like questioning, do I agree with this anymore? Is this
Right.
true? Right? Because if it's not true, then what is true? And how do you break that long cycle of telling yourself that same story? Because
Yes.
we have relationships, right? To people, places, things, pets, right? Our careers, our significant others. We have relationships to our hobbies, and we have relationships with ourselves.
Right.
So it's how you treat yourself in in that relationship. Are you being kind? Are you being a good friend to yourself? Are you being honest and vulnerable? And those are hard things to learn. Those are hard
Right.
things to learn. And sometimes we have those barriers, those limiting beliefs is stuck in there that we have
Mhm.
to go, oh, you know what? Well, I used to believe this about myself, but actually the truth is this.
Mhm.
And that's really how you start to break that. So the one of the danger points of not doing this work is that if you maintain and allow those limiting beliefs to stay unchecked, they can create barriers in the relationships and the personal growth that you want and deserve to have. And so it's really important to do this. And I'm not saying that it's easy. It is tough, hard work that is deep, heart related, that needs you to slow down and it requires you to really look and pay attention to things. But the
Right.
gold that you get out of it, man, is so worth it. It is worth it. And so it's really important to ask yourself, and there's seasons of that where maybe you do a little bit of depth and then you need to rest. And then you do a
Mm.
little bit more depth and then you need to rest again. So finding that time of that you're in personally and you're saying, okay, am I ready to do more work right now?
Right. Find
Um,
that rhythm. I
yeah,
like that. I
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, especially early on when I was learning about this, like I really am like a type A achiever. Like I like to do a lot of different things to keep my mind and body busy, and I like to accomplish things, right? But that was also based out of a lie that I used to believe about how I earned love. I earned love by doing things, right? And that is something that I had to untangle, right? And it and it didn't happen overnight, right? So being kind and gentle with yourself as you start to think about these things, and maybe some of these things right off the top of your head, like you said, like, oh, I'm ugly, right? This lie that you believed that you were ugly. But maybe there's some lies that you've been believing and telling yourself that story for so long that you actually think that they're true. And
Mm-hmm.
it takes somebody else to say, hey, I noticed that you treat yourself really poorly in this way, that you talk down to yourself, that you're harsh, you're critical with yourself. You are, you know, someone who can look in and reflect that back for you, or you can be still and reflect and see what else is in there that needs to get worked on, that I can heal, really, because we're healing wounds is what's happening.
Right.
There's been a wound and you're starting to heal from that, which
Mm-hmm.
someone gave me some really good advice long ago, that don't expect to run a marathon after you have heart surgery.
Wow.
Right?
I like that.
There's a
Yeah.
healing process that happens, and then there's the recovery part that needs to happen, and then there's the PT that needs to happen, and then there's the relearning that needs to happen, right? And that's the same on an emotional level. When you're doing deep heart work, don't expect to run that marathon the next day. Like you will get there, you'll get back to the pace you're at and even probably surpass it, but you'll be doing it with healthier boundaries and healthier understanding of yourself because you did the work.
Right. Right. And that's all good, deep stuff that is so,
Yeah.
so necessary. Actually, the kind of ironic thing is, I do talk to people about self talk and that self esteem and the way we esteem ourselves, the value that we assign to ourselves.
Yeah.
And part of that, part of the message that I give to people as I'm talking about way you communicate with yourself and others is because I've walked that. And I know how damaging that can be. And then I see people around me who do those same things, and my heart just breaks because I see how harsh they're being with themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, so what do you have for us today? Are you going to talk about different types of the limiting beliefs? Are you going to talk about
Yeah.
things we fall into? What you got?
I want to talk about like how to spot it. And then I want
Okay.
to talk about how they show up in our lives
Okay.
and what we can do. And then we'll dive deep into some of these areas where we're actually looking at, I'm going to name some of them,
Okay.
right? They may not all be true for the people who are listening, but some of them may, right? And if
Right.
you're listening, you're like, oh, I really relate to that one. Or I've heard a version of that one that, oh, here's mine, right? And we're
Right.
going to look at that in different areas of self care and the way we look at ourselves, of self worth, and maybe a couple more as we go through it. But I
Perfect.
want to talk about how do we spot it, or like, oh, there's danger. Okay, well, how do I spot the danger, right? So you look for patterns of negative self talk, right? So if you're talking down to yourself a lot and you're like, oh, I do this quite kind of often, or every time I see this person, I'm talking down to myself, or this situation happens, look for the patterns, because patterns really tell us some purpose and meaning behind it. Pay attention to anything you're avoiding. Like if you have behaviors that you're avoiding, usually there's something in there that isn't yet healed, that because you don't want to be around it. Sometimes we don't even want to be around ourselves, which is a really good indicator that there's some healing work left to do, and maybe some limiting beliefs in there that still need to get honored and looked at. Notice the stories you tell yourself. So we did talk about that a little bit, but then check for feelings of unworthiness. And that's really where you want to dig in and be like, where do I feel unworthy? That I don't deserve something, or I do deserve something negative. Um, looking for those. So those are the things to pay attention to. Okay, so let's talk about self-care, if that's a good place to start. Let me pull this document up real quick because I have a couple offhand.
And I think it's a great place to start, especially because we've just been talking about How do you esteem yourself? How do you treat yourself because of the value that you assign to yourself?
Right.
So this is going to be great.
And this is actually an act of self-care to be still, to be curious, to hold space for yourself, to and not just hold space to be like, oh, I'm doing something bad or I want to change something, right? But to be kind and gentle with yourself, to say there's something in here that needs space to be heard and felt without judgment or criticism or analysis, right? Or advice, just to be able to be there, to live.
Mm-hmm.
Say, oh, is this serving me? Do I need this anymore? Or is there a better way for me to live? Is there a better
Mm,
way? All right. So the first one that I hear quite often, the top three actually pretty often, is self-care is selfish.
mm, mm.
Self-care is selfish. And that's a belief that's really ingrained into us, of like, you have to keep busy, keep busy, keep busy, keep doing, keep doing, keep doing. Like if you don't, if you stop, then you're like not, you're not doing something right, right? Always going and going and going. Self-care is selfish. So if you've kind of been living in that, if you're like, oh yeah, I don't ever rest, but you're proud of it. Like, yeah, I never take a time off. I've never slowed down. I don't have any hobbies. I just work all the time. You're in a danger zone, because rest
Mm-hmm.
is part of it,
Right.
right? Rest is part of the process. And so to reframe that, to look at that from another angle, right? And that's all that reframe look is meaning, is to just kind of look from a different angle. So if your angle right now, if your belief and your thought is that self-care is selfish, one way that you can look at it is that self-care is necessary for maintaining your well-being. It's actually necessary for your health to take care of yourself.
Right.
The other one I hear quite often is, I don't deserve self-care. This is kind of a place of like self-worth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
a reframe there is that actually the truth is everybody deserves self-care, including you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right. Right. And you and I've talked before about workaholics, right?
Sure.
And
Oh, yeah.
how and yeah, and how I am a recovering workaholic, and we've talked about how it's not a badge of honor to
Mm.
just work and work and work and work, and then you're run down and you know
And work isn't a 9 to 5 essentially either. Like working could be like a mom who takes care of the kids all day long without ever taking a break for themselves. Like
right.
I see people burn out so much because they're not taking a shower for themselves. You know what I mean? Like they're not taking a breath. They're not asking for help. They're not saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, I just need a break. I just need a small break here." You
Mm-hmm.
because they don't feel worth it. They don't feel like
Mm-hmm.
they deserve it. They don't feel like there's this pressure. I don't even know who put the pressure on you, but somebody put some pressure on yourself, or maybe you put the pressure on yourself to say, I have to keep going no matter what. Um, and that's a lie. Rest is part of the process, and self care is important, because if you don't take care of yourself, no one else is going to do it, right? And so you're going to sacrifice yourself for the whatever it is that you're, you know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you're doing, and eventually it's burnout. You can't maintain that.
Right.
It's
Right.
difficult to maintain that, and you're teaching your next generation how to do that as well and not take care of themselves, right? Or you're teaching your friends that everybody's worth your time except you.
Right.
You know,
And I like that you said, what are you teaching your kids?
sure.
Because what I was about to say before you said that is, I think we would have to look back at, and most parents do their best. They 100% do their best. I am a parent and I did my best. Did I get it right every single time? No, not at all. Right? I had great parents. Did they get it right every single time? No, not at all. But what I was going to say is, I think often we are nurtured into some of these limiting beliefs.
It's rewarded. It's rewarded. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And that is like, sometimes you got to look at it and be like, wait a second. I'm achieving. Like I'm getting rewards for this, for not, for working and never slowing down. Right. Like
Mhm.
but what is that reinforcing? Is this really the life that I want to be living?
Right.
Because you only get one. And so, like, is this the rhythm that you want? Is this um the heritage that you want to leave behind? Um, yeah, yeah. And I think the answer is going to be different for every single person.
Mm-hmm.
My rhythm right now is a lot different than it was 7 years ago, and that's okay. Like, I had to wrestle with that and to decide, like, what's most important. Not what is the most important, but what's most important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And rest was part of it. I was like, okay, I'm going to burn out if I keep at this pace. And because I don't want to burn out, because that will make me ineffective for all these other areas of my life, then I need to make a change. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just goes back to the whole, everybody knows this analogy of put the oxygen mask on
Hmm.
yourself first. Because if you're on the plane and the oxygen mask drops and you don't put it on yourself and you're trying to help other people and you pass out, who does that help?
Sure.
Nobody,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So that's the perfect picture for this of, we have to take care of ourselves,
Hmm.
especially if we have other people to take care of, right? Littles or
Yeah.
aging parents, or, I mean, we have adult children and we still like to help them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. You're only as strong as your weakest link there. Sometimes you're the weakest link.
right, right.
Oh, I haven't rested, and now it's impacted my emotional well-being, it's impacted my physical well-being, it's impacted my spiritual well-being, my
Yes.
mental well-being. Like, there's a domino effect. It affects all of it. You can't segment that out and be like, oh well, I'm doing some self-care in this area, but like all this other area I've ignored. That'd be like going to the gym and only like building up your biceps and then being like, well, I don't know why the rest of my body's weak. I do. You might need a better mix of workout here. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So which it's interesting because it ties together too. Like this idea of like self-care, that I don't deserve it. I deserve is a word of worth. And one of the higher ones of like your sense of self-worth is that my worth is determined by my achievements. Right. So now you have this compounded lie of I don't deserve self-care, right? So basically never rest. And because I never rest, that means I'm chasing achievements because that's where my worth is coming from.
Right.
Like, that sounds exhausting to me. It is exhausting. Like, and I
Mhm.
used to live that way, right? I used to live that way where I was trying to achieve because achievements equal love. When really I was loved just for who I was. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to earn it. I didn't have to prove it. I just was loved for me. And so when you get to that point, you wrestle with those things and you say, oh, wait a second, what's the reframe on that one? Like, my worth goes beyond accomplishments, right? I am valuable simply for being me. That's it. Full, full stop. I'm valuable.
Exactly. You were created,
Yeah.
right?
With inherent value. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Love it. All right.
Yeah. So it's messy. It's messy work. I call it the messy middle. Like it's not going to come like brilliantly to you at the first tries, right? So failure is a part of the learning process, and like
Mm-hmm.
being messy with it and trying to figure out like, okay, where does this come from? Who taught me this? Where did I learn it from? Where am I reinforcing it in my own life? How do I break this lie? And usually it's broken with the truth. So you have to find out what the truth is about yourself.
Mm.
That's a lot of the work of that reconciliation heart work that I do with people, is figuring out, okay, well, what lies are you believing? And how do we bring some truth into that? So that you can break free of that and remind yourself of what the truth is. And the truth is these things, right? You are valuable. Your past does not define you. You are deserving of love and happiness. Your worth isn't dependent on pleasing others, right? All those things, those are true things, right? Self-care is a fundamental need, right, for a healthy life. Prioritizing it creates more time so that you can be more productive and focused. Like, as you hear those things, like, yeah, oh yeah, that is true. Oh yeah, those things are true. Like, oh, okay, yeah. Why am I not applying them to my own life?
Right.
And it's not something it's just, oh, now I know the reframe and now I'm all set. No, you have to actually actively work this out.
Right.
Change the behaviors, change the ways that you are living and operating in, so that you can. Sometimes you have to lose some friends. I'm sorry, but like, it's true. Sometimes you have to change your friend group because they are feeding into that negativity all the time because they haven't done the work either, right? And you're like,
Yes.
man, this is a sacrifice. Like, if to get healthy, I have to actually lose some friends. Yeah, sometimes those boundaries are really hard to deal with.
Hmm.
But it's a question of like, do you want to be healthy? Do you want to be healthy? And if you
Right.
do, like, here are the steps to do that, because everyone has the option to be healthy, but not everybody chooses it.
Right. I agree. And, earlier you were talking about, I think you said something about, are these lies not serving me anymore?
Right.
And I think our hope would be that you get to that point where you say, this negative conversation that I'm having with
Mhm.
myself that is steeped in lies,
Yeah.
it's not healthy. It's not okay.
And sometimes I ask myself this question. I was like, would I talk to my friend list the way that I talk to myself?
Right.
I'm like, oh no, I would be way more easy. I would be way more understanding. I would not be so critical of their not understanding something or not knowing something. It's like, oh yeah, that's just normal. No one knows that until it's taught. Like, okay, I ride a motorcycle. Okay, it's new to me. I've loved it. I've wanted to do it for years, and I have been learning how to go from a stop on a hill to a start. And it's very frustrating. It's very difficult for me to understand the sequential of it. If anyone rides a motorcycle and wants to give me advice, please reach out, because I stall so many times trying to get going, momentum forward, because I'm like on the brake and I'm trying to do the thing. Because I've never done it before. I've never done it before, and I've always driven a car. I've never ridden a motorcycle, right? And now I'm riding a motorcycle, and I'm like, oh, I love this. This is fun. And also, there's some challenge there because I'm doing something I've never done before, right? And so I get in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, people are getting mad at me. I'm starting to story tell a little bit as I'm there in that situation. Like, people are getting mad at me. Like, I'm gonna wreck. I'm gonna drop the bike. Like, oh, they must think all these things about me. Like, I get so harsh and critical. I'm like, you should be able to figure it out. Just do the thing. Why do you keep stalling? I'm like, grr. And then I figure it out, right? And I'm like, oh, I did it. Okay, I did it. Oh, okay, cool. And it gets easier each time, right? But I reflect back at that and I'm like, yeah, I'm learning something new. Like, I've never done it before. This is complex, right? This is something that I know I can do, but it's a difficult learning process for me right now. And so how can I be kind and gentle to myself in the moment, the next time I get stalled out on a hill, right? The next time I think other people are judging me, or the next time I'm like worried about what other people think, because I can't control that anyway, right? But in that moment, we're like, okay, ride your ride. That's kind of my mantra, like, ride your ride, ride your ride. Like, it's not anyone else's fault. It's not anyone else's responsibility. It's your responsibility. You're riding the bike. You're doing the thing, right? And so owning what's yours is really important, and knowing like you can be kind and gentle to yourself as you're learning something new.
I have to say, just a side note, real quick, just the fact I'm just picturing me on a motorcycle on a hill trying to go. And I have to say, I admire you that you keep after it, because I would be like, I'm just going to lay the bike down and walk
I
over
know.
here.
I did think, I was like, maybe I'll go down the hill real quick and then like turn around, and then I'll hit the red light again. And I'm like, oh, it's so
I'll
frustrating.
find a different way to go.
Right. Just go back road. It's fine. It's fun. I
Yeah.
usually have my husband, he's driving in the car behind me, and we are on like a comm unit thing the whole time. And so I'll be like, turn your hazards on. Like, I'll get there. And he's like, you got this, babe. Like, you got it. Just ride your ride. I'm like, right, ride my ride, ride my ride, ride my ride. What do I do? Do this, do this. Oh, I'm going.
I love it. Yeah, that is so sweet.
Yeah. And then he also protects me from anyone behind me. So I like that part.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Block traffic. It's fine. It's fine. Wave them on. Wave them on. First season.
That's
It's great.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Okay. All right. What else?
What else? So what are some of the ways that I guess I would ask the audience to think about this too? Like, what are some of the ways that you're talking to yourself because we all have these inner dialogues. What did you call it? Intra communication?
Intra communication.
Intra communication, right?
Hmm.
We all have these dialogues about what we are experiencing, right?
Right,
We are the main character in our own stories.
right,
And
right, right.
so, how are you talking to yourself, um, slowing it down, being intentional about paying attention
Hmm.
to those things, and then questioning, is this true? I
Right,
think that's like the biggest thing for me is like, is this true? And if it is, okay. And if it isn't, okay.
right. Right. Okay. I just realized it's not intra communication.
Okay.
It's intrapersonal
Interpersonal.
communication. Intrapersonal communication. I don't know what I've been saying this
Intrapersonal.
whole episode. I don't know what it in fact is intrapersonal communication, because interpersonal, which is what I talk about a lot with people, that's more than you, right?
So, what story are you telling about yourself right now with that realization?
My old self, I would be like, oh, now you look stupid. Now you look like you don't know what you're talking about. No, I, in fact, do know what I'm talking about. I've studied this stuff for years. So today, I would be like, whatever.
Eh,
Eh,
cleared it up. Okay. Doesn't slow me down. We're just gonna keep
yeah, yeah. I made it right. Now I can move forward.
there you
Yeah,
go. Yeah, and just to know that like everyone listening and me, like to have grace for that. Like, okay,
right.
yeah. In intrapersonal, got it. All right.
Intrapersonal. Yeah,
Personal. I
yeah.
love it. Where did you first learn about that?
So my degrees are in communication, in some people see communication as media, right?
Mhm.
And it's not that type of communication.
Mhm.
It is the human communication. Those are what my degrees are in, that interpersonal, that human communication, those relationships. So uh, in my class, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What drew you to that?
So let's go back to when I was working
This
on
is
my
Danielle
bachelor's.
just flipping the
Let's
script
just, yeah, let's just
and
do this.
interviewing
Let's
Traci
do
real
this. Now
quick.
everybody's going to know my little story. So when I was working on my bachelor's for, like, I don't know how many, I was at a school with
We won't
trimester.
talk about years. Don't worry about it. We're not counting.
I'm not, yeah, people can know how old I'm. I don't care. But we had trimesters, and so I went through, I don't know how many trimesters of not declaring a major.
Hmm.
And when you're working on your degree, they want you to declare a major so that they can tell you you need to take these classes.
Right, right, right.
So I just kept not declaring because I didn't know,
Having to
right?
learn everything.
Well, I mean, really, what 18-year-old
Knows what they're doing? No,
knows what they're doing?
no,
Like,
no.
you have those few people who are like, this is what I want to do. I've wanted to do it since I was 4, and
Right.
this is what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah.
Most people are not like that. And so, I had gone through all these different things that I wanted to do. And so I kept not declaring, and law interested
Mhm.
me. And so becoming an attorney at that moment was one of my thoughts. Before that, I was wanting to be um, a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, a psychologist.
Mhm.
And then just a whole lot of dialogue in my head. I decided that wasn't it. But I love research. I love
Mhm.
research. And so the idea of studying law, and honestly, I like school, so I was kind of weird. Although back then I liked socializing more than school. Anyhow, but so they forced me to pick a major, and I knew that sometimes pre-law they did communication.
Ah,
And
okay.
so I went that route. And ultimately I ended up not doing pre-law. I took my LSAT, but I had so many people in my life at the time who were attorneys. I worked actually for the Oklahoma
Mhm.
Attorney General's office. And in college, I worked for a group of attorneys, Ferguson, Horn, Lawson, and Heck, which I think is morphed now. But anyhow, so I worked for attorneys through college, and I worked for the Attorney General's office out of college. And I just loved it. And across the board, I think one attorney said, yeah, go for it. Every other attorney said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I
Wow.
allowed all of these other people to steer me away from it.
Mm,
But I mean, so anyhow, so all of that to say, that is how I came to a degree in communication, because at the time I thought I wanted to go pre law and then into law school. But the interesting thing, Danielle, is it speaks to me because
yeah.
I get to help people with their communication skills, and I get to watch how that changes their lives.
Yeah.
And that lights my fire.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons I love this podcast, is because I get to bring guests on like you and really just, well, what are your tips on communication? And then I get to ask those questions and really dive into
You
that.
literally just never left school is what I hear you say.
And
A
then when I worked on
lifelong
my
learner.
when I worked on my master's in communication, that is when I was like, I love learning. I
Yeah.
love learning. I
Yeah.
love asking questions.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I love about you when you do the um, know and tell podcast for our Know Thyself community. You love it. You eat it up. You love talking to people and asking questions and understanding.
I really
And
like to understand like why people are the way that they are. Like to
yeah,
me, that's such an interesting um way to look at it and way to understand somebody is like what, well, why, where did that come from, who taught you that, like how does that play into these other things, and then as I learn more and more and more, I'm able to like kind of look back and say, oh, have you considered this thread that has gone throughout the entire life, all the things that you've shared with me, have you considered this is the thread? And they're like, oh no, yeah, you're right. And that moment of clarity, that moment of like unlock, that moment of like eyes being awoken to something, it's like,
right,
yeah, there it is, like that. Now what do we do with it, right? And so that's where that discovery part ends and the recovery part starts, right? But you have to do the discovery work of it, and a lot of people like read a lot of books and take a lot of classes and learn a lot of things, but they never actually take the actionable steps to recover from it or to change from, I'm believing this way and now I'm going to change and believe this other way, and
right,
here's the facts around why I'm making this change, and here's what supports it, and here's how I am encouraged by it, and all those things. So it's important to do the discovery work, but discovery is half the equation. You have to take the steps of recovery as well.
right, right. It would be like, I actually did this exercise. I taught all different ages of Sunday school. Now it's not really called Sunday school anymore. Some people still do. Sometimes it's life groups, whatever. But I taught literally just from bed baby all the way to adult at different points.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was doing fifth grade and I brought a wrapped present in
Mm,
and I sat it in the middle of the table.
I want to know what was in there so bad right now.
Right. Well, I think it was an empty box. I don't even remember. But
No.
point was is you can take this gift,
Mhm.
but if you never do the work of opening the gift and
Mm,
taking what's inside out,
uh,
right?
yeah.
So it's this.
Sometimes we mistake wounds as something to be discarded, but they're actually gifts that teach us something.
Mm,
And
yeah,
when we can look at the wound and look at it objectively and say, okay, yeah, this thing is healing, right? But here's what I've learned from it. Here's what it's taught me. Here's what I'm going to take away from it, and here's what I don't need from it anymore, right? I don't need to carry these things for me anymore. Yeah,
yeah.
that's beautiful heart work. That's deep, like self-discovery work of
Mm,
intrapersonal work that anybody can do. Anybody can do,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's fun for me looking at it from the outside, but I remember when I was in it, it wasn't fun. Okay, so like I'm not trying to sugarcoat, like this is really fun work. Come with me and like let's do this really deep heart work. Well, yeah, let's do it, but also it's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. It's not going to feel good in the moment, and you're going to want to quit. Isn't that a great pitch right there? But when you want to quit, when it doesn't feel good, when you want to give up and not go forward anymore, that's when you reach out to somebody who's there in the fight with you,
Right.
who can walk with you and say, don't give up, I'm right here, let's keep moving forward. Because the things that you learn someone taught me a while ago, like there's learned knowledge and there's earned knowledge.
Oh,
And
yeah.
for me, it's like I have things that I have learned, and there are things that I have earned through my experiences, and through challenging them, and through wrestling with them, and really understanding myself better, so that I can help other people do that same
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm. So just a pitch for Danielle real quick. If you know you need to do that heart work and you want somebody on your side, Danielle's your
Yeah,
girl.
reach
Okay,
out, reach out.
commercial done.
DanielleSouthwick.com. I would love it. I consider it an honor. Every time I walk with a client, I consider it an honor, whether we walk together for one day, for 6 weeks, for 6 months, like it doesn't matter. Like, let's do the deep heart work together so that you can then apply those tools the rest of your life. Like
Right.
for me, it's just like, man, a breath of fresh air. I wish I learned this sooner. I wish someone taught me about emotions and taught me about belief systems and taught me about how to challenge these things in a healthy way and to really look at it and break it apart and say, where does this come from? Why do I believe this about myself? Why do I treat myself this way? Why am I putting myself down in public? Why am I all those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I reacting towards something so intensely when it's like a level two? Like, where's that coming from?
Yes. Yeah.
And then learning a new way to do it, learning a better way to operate.
And I would say what you just talked about, why am I reacting this way when it's really a level two? I
Mhm.
think, you talked about kind of taking stock of what you're feeling and how you're reacting. And I
Mhm.
would say if that's the case, you may want to say that's honestly a red flag
Sure.
that you need to do
Well,
some
it's an
work.
indicator, right? It's an
Mhm.
indicator that says, "Oh, there's something here I need to pay attention to." Feelings actually for me are good indicators of a need that's being met or a need that's not being met.
Yes.
Really, those positive emotions that you're feeling, oh, there's a need that's being met. And those negative emotions, there's a need that's not being met. So if you could pay attention to what you're feeling, sometimes I ask it in the inverse of like, what am I not trying to feel? And if I
Yeah.
ask that, I get the answer quicker for myself. And so I'm like, oh, I'm trying to avoid, feeling sad. Got it. Okay, why? Right? If you can connect the need or the feeling to the need, you get the answer because you really just like, okay, well, I need this thing. All right.
Right.
Is that something I can internally give to myself?
Yeah.
Do I need a hug? Do I need affirmations? Do I need rest? A big important R word that no that everybody forgets about. Rest. Your body needs rest. Your mind needs rest. Your soul needs rest.
Yes.
Your
Yeah.
soul needs rest. And so giving those things rest, in order to go back and go towards. Yeah.
Okay. I just have to say, and somebody may watch this episode how many years from now, I don't even know, but there I have to say that this is interesting that you're talking about rest so much
Mhm.
because I'm a believer. Most people who've been watching this podcast or listening know that I'm a follower of Christ. And so I have been getting so many messages about rest and peace lately that it's like,
Mhm.
okay, Lord, okay, Lord, I hear what you're saying, right? I got it. I got
If,
it.
if the
So,
creator of the entire universe can take a day off, right? After he did all that creation, like I
right.
think we can too. Like we can follow that
Yeah.
example and take some rest. Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
important.
So here's what's interesting because the book that I'm reading right now is called Me, Myself, and Lies. And
Mm,
the history of this book is that my daughter had a friend who was in a really unhealthy place
mm,
emotionally. And so I don't even know where I was. I don't know if it was Amazon or Mardell. I don't know. But I
mm,
saw this book, Me, Myself, and Lies, and I thought, oh, that's really good. And so I ordered 3 copies and I
mm,
gave my daughter a copy. I gave her friends a copy. And then I kept a copy for myself.
mm,
And so after the last book that I finished, usually I'm praying through like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to read next? And he just like, boom, this book. So I've had this book for years and
mm.
years. And so I pulled it out and I started reading it. And I'm telling you, Danielle, it has been oh, one of those epiphany aha
Right.
times.
Right.
And so I just finished reading like 2 nights ago, where she talked about the creation for the 6 days. And each one is like, this was night and then morning, night and then morning, night and then morning. But when it gets to the seventh day, when he rested, it says nothing about night and then morning. It
Mm,
just says on the seventh day he rested. And
mm,
so her point was that there's a rabbinical thought that God is rest. And
mm,
it didn't say, night and then morning. On the seventh day he rested, because their idea is that on the seventh day and forevermore he
mm,
rested. He is still resting. He is
mm,
a God of rest and a God of peace.
mm.
And so her point in this book is that you need to get to the point in your life where you are just at rest. Now, that's not saying you never do anything. That's
Right.
not her point at all.
That
But it's
doesn't mean you're now ineffective,
right,
right? Or
right,
inactive, or
right. It
right.
is just a uh,
Stop
probably
chasing the things that don't bring you value.
right.
Right?
Yeah, yeah,
We chase achievements, we chase perfection, we chase worthiness from all these other sources. We chase love, we chase wealth, we chase all
yes,
these things, and yet we forget to chase the source of all those things. The source of all those things, right?
right.
And so we have to reframe and look away from those the imitations of them, right?
Yes.
And look to the one who is the source of them,
Hmm. I
right?
love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll have to send you a screenshot of that book.
Yeah,
Actually, I
let's
think I put it. I think I put it in the Know Thyself community, where it's the book club,
okay, yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
just taking pictures of what we're reading. I think I've got it there. But anyhow,
I
I
love it.
think it would be worth your read, because this is part of the work that
It
you
it
do.
is. It's so interesting, and one of the things I tell people is like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and that's like a blessing and a curse. It's a good thing to have your eyes open to these things, but then it's your responsibility. What are you going to do about it, right?
Hmm. Right,
What's your responsibility of this thing? If your arm is broken, it's your responsibility to go get that fixed, go get that
right,
healed, right? You don't just like wait around like, oh, my arm's broken. Oh man, my body is so weak, and I'm never gonna do these things, and I'm just deformed now. You know what I mean? Like, no, you're gonna take action, right? Action, ACT. What did I write down earlier? Somewhere, and I can't remember where it is. Oh man, it was so good too, because I heard it from somebody. Oh, action changes things. Action changes things. So you're going to take action on it. So
right.
take action.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, what else do you have for us?
I just love you, and I love the community, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. It's really great. I mean, these are the things that I have. I'm just going to sit and talk about my motorcycle for the next hour and a half if you'd like. I really will. It's so pretty. It's very pretty.
You need to send me a picture of
I
your
will send you a
motorcycle.
picture.
I
It's,
love it. I
it
love.
needs a little maintenance work, so I'm a little bummed out that I'm not riding it right now in the sunshine, but I'll get there.
So speaking of pictures, let me give Danielle another little commercial. Look behind her, and you will see all kinds of paintings, and Danielle did those also. So let's see. She is a grief recovery specialist who, among other things, in that work, helps people uncover the lies that they are believing about themselves. And she rides a motorcycle, and she also does paintings that are for sale, right?
Yes,
you,
yes,
you
ma'am.
sell these to help kind of fund the work that you do.
Yeah, so
So
I create fluid artwork. Really, it became an expression of just the emotions that I was feeling in a way to creatively express it. I didn't even know I could do it until I got some supplies and just threw some paint on the canvas. I was like, oh, I can do this. Okay. And then somebody started to buy them, and somebody commissioned some work, and I was like, oh, I can do this. Okay. So then I decided, well, let me turn this into scholarships for people who need grief work, who need the limiting beliefs work, who needs the freedom in Christ work, who need these things but aren't able to afford full services. Let me turn that into, so every piece of artwork that I sell goes right back into scholarships for other clients.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tie-in that I'm just able to like express myself, create something new, and also use it for good.
Yes. Yes. So we will put her information, ways that you can contact her. If you need to do that heart work, go do that heart work with Danielle. If you want to buy some paintings to help pay for somebody else who needs that heart work done, go buy some of her paintings because they're incredible. So,
Thank you.
and I don't know how to plug your motorcycle other
That's
than just
okay.
pray for
It's
her.
just room
Pray
for
for her
if you
on
ride
the
a
hill.
motorcycle and you want to ride with me, reach out and we'll ride together. That's it.
Exactly. Okay. Danielle, I love our time together every single time.
Me too.
So we will again put her information in the show notes. We will put the link to her former podcast on the Communicate Great podcast. So you can go take a listen to that as well. The links on how to go buy her paintings. And I will also put a link for the Know Thyself community if you want to go check that out and come join Danielle and I inside that community. So, all right.
Well, thank you so
Thank you
much.
again, Danielle. All right, everybody, we'll see you next time.
See
Bye.
you. Bye.